For decades, the American approach to foreign policy relied on a model of strategic altruism. The core assumption was that shared democratic values would naturally lead to binding defense pacts and synchronized economic goals. But the reality of U.S.-India relations between 2024 and 2026 suggests that blueprint is failing. Curious, slightly incredulous, Washington is integrating its most sensitive military technology with the Indian armed forces, while New Delhi continues to fund Russian energy and absorbs trade attacks launched directly from the White House. India calls this strategy multi-alignment. It is a calculated refusal of the formal alliance structure, allowing New Delhi to pursue interests that overlap with Washington without ever offering a guarantee of political loyalty. This forces the United States to manage a relationship that is operational in the field, but volatile in the cabinet room, a partial partnership. Despite having no binding treaty, the two nations have reached a level of military interoperability that was unthinkable a generation ago. 4 foundational agreements connect U.S. and Indian defense assets. Agreements like COMCASA allow highly encrypted communications and access to geospatial intelligence. Crucially, under LEMOA's logistics sharing, India retains the right to approve or reject any U.S. access request. These pacts are force multipliers, not obligations. This pivot toward tangible action accelerated at the June 2026 Quad Ministerial in New Delhi, where the group moved past diplomatic talk to focus on maritime security and supply chain defense. By the end of 2026, India had successfully acquired top-tier American defense capabilities while keeping its strategic autonomy untouched. Because India is not a formal ally, it feels no pressure to prioritize American geopolitical goals over its own economic survival. This tanker represents a persistent point of friction. India has maintained its reliance on Russian defense equipment and deeply discounted oil, explicitly citing its own national energy needs, despite intense pressure from Washington. In early 2026, the U.S. attempted to move India away from Russian crude by offering trade concessions linked to Venezuelan oil. New Delhi refused to shift. These diplomatic clashes are not a temporary glitch in the system. They are a permanent feature of a relationship built on multi-alignment. New Delhi initially assumed that the personal chemistry between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump would shield them from the more aggressive shifts in American policy during 2025 and 2026. That assumption was incorrect. The U.S. leveraged trade barriers and tariffs to force economic concessions, signaling that the era of strategic altruism had given way to a transactional reality. The tension peaked in May 2025 when the U.S. offered to mediate the Kashmir dispute during a confrontation between India and Pakistan. This violated a long-standing third rail of Indian foreign policy, which insists the issue is strictly bilateral. For India, the lesson was clear. Shared democratic values offer no immunity against the hardball tactics of an American administration pursuing its own interests. Washington has adjusted to the reality that it can no longer persuade India to abandon its relationships with U.S. adversaries like Russia or Iran. This map shows the logic behind the partial partnership. Keeping India closely armed to contain China in the Indo-Pacific is viewed as worth the headache of India's ties to Moscow. The result is a dual-track relationship, one that is incredibly potent in defense technology, but inherently volatile in diplomacy and trade. India's multi-alignment strategy has rewritten the rules of this specific partnership, replacing the expectation of total allegiance with a strategy of calculated friction.